Hey, welcome to the Get Inspired Show. If you're searching for purpose in life, wanting to overcome fears that hold you back, and you're just ready to take off the masks that hide your greatness, then this podcast is for you. We're sharing real stories from real people from all around the world who have overcome adversity and life circumstances to inspire you to take action in your life and business. So sit back and get ready to get inspired. Welcome everyone to this week's episode on the Get Inspired Show. I'm your host, Whitley Jane, and I'm bringing you real stories by real people from all around the world to inspire you to take action in your life and business. Are you wanting to change your circumstances? Maybe you're going through a breakup, a tough financial period, or maybe just feeling stuck with where you're at in your life. Regardless of whatever it is or wherever you're at right now, you can be rest assured that today's guest will leave you with some positivity and valuable life hacks that will inspire you into action. This week's episode is brought to you by ConnectionWorks. ConnectionWorks is a creative and inspiring solution for collaborative workspace. It's open to various individual startups and small to medium-sized businesses alike. ConnectionWorks. Come for the space, stay for the people. Today, I have the privilege to welcome today's guest, entrepreneur, positivity, and mindset coach, Dave Doyle. He's been on a personal development journey for over 25 years since he first listened to Tony Robbins on cassette tapes in his car. For the last 10 years, he's focused his energy to becoming an expert on positive mindset by making a conscious choice to living every day with a positive mental attitude. He's met and studied with some of the world's top thought leaders like Tony Robbins, Jack Canfield, and T. Harv Eker. I can honestly say that Dave has a gift for taking personal development material and breaking it down to its simplest form so that literally anyone can understand it at any level. Today, my friends, you are all in for a treat. Please welcome my friend, Dave Doyle. Hey, Dave, what's up?
Whitley, how's it going?
It's going great. Thank you so much for being here today.
Awesome. Absolutely. It's my pleasure, and I appreciate the offer, and no pressure after that amazing introduction.
I was so excited to have you on today because we've talked in the past, and honestly, what you do and how you teach it is so phenomenal. So I'm really excited to dive into this. And so everybody knows that you are a mindset positivity coach. What's the biggest issue or problem that you see people struggling with today?
Oh, all right. We're starting off with a bang.
Yep.
So I guess from that perspective, the simplicity is just the seeming bombardment of negativity. I think the biggest challenge we face is, and some of the younger people listening might not comprehend this, but the internet and the instant communication globally is still very, very new and fresh. And I think we're still getting a handle and a grip on it. And it has, I think it has skewed humanity's perspectives, because now that we have this instant communication worldwide through the internet, and so especially through social media apps, I think it's easy to feel like things are really negative all the time on a large scale. But I think the reality is the exact opposite. It's just that we're seeing more and hearing more of the negative because there's, here's how I put it. Even in my TED Talk, I mentioned it. The minority of negative people are obnoxiously loud. And so when you have negativity that's 20 times louder than the average positive person, it feels like that negativity is just at a higher level than it actually is. Where the reality is, when you look at different studies, it shows that death by war and disease and even natural disasters, which again doesn't feel this way, is actually less than it ever has been. Like, we're living in one of the best times ever in humanity. We have the most opportunity. We have the most free time. We have the most this, that, most opportunity for knowledge and learning through the internet and things like this. But yet it feels like things are so bad sometimes. And I think that's the biggest challenge overall for humanity, and when it comes to positivity and positive mindset.
It's interesting that you say that, because I had a friend the other day actually say to me, oh my goodness, the world is getting crazier. Like, it's the worst that it's ever been. And it's funny that you say that with that perspective. Now, what type of negative effects do you see this having on us as a whole?
As a whole, well, kind of just what I said. It's just, I think the general feeling inside of a lot of people is like, man, this world is, going to crap. And it just feels like that, because a lot of people, if you're not intentional and on purpose with what you see and view and pay attention to in your feeds, you'll be scrolling the Instagram and scrolling the Facebook. And when there's something negative, meaning, and I don't mean negative as in bad, it's just, we, as humans, we gravitate towards, I guess I just have to say the negative stuff. We're rubberneckers, right? You're driving down the highway and you see an accident on the side of the road. You slow down and you turn your head and you watch, because you're super curious. You're like, whoa, what's this? What's going on? What's going on? We're always gravitate towards chaos and destruction and fighting and disaster and things like that. It's kind of how humans are wired from way back when, with fight or flight. And so when we're looking at that stuff online, it's exactly the same thing as driving by a car accident. You're super curious and you want to check it out. And unfortunately, most people just totally give into that and then go down rabbit holes with it. And so when you're the input of data that's going from the social media and is going into your brain and into your body and into your heart, and it's disaster and chaos and fighting and whatever, that's what you're inputting into yourself. And so what you put in is what you're going to get out. And so the more that we go down those rabbit holes of negativity, negative information, media sensationalism, the worse we're making ourselves and what we're putting out in our own environments. Right?
So what you're saying is basically, the more that we focus on negativity, the more that we're attracting more negativity into our lives.
Yeah, of course. You know that.
Right. But for anyone else out there that may not necessarily know that too, though,
yeah.
Right? Are you able to like kind of break that down a bit? Because I know that positivity, like that's, you live, you breathe that is your mission, right? So can you break that down to some people who may be at the more like beginner stages of personal development in their own journey? The whole, positivity, negativity, like attracts like.
Yeah. So the simplicity is this: we all know this stuff deep down innately. A lot of people need more specific education, meaning we actually need to hear the information, be taught the information, and then become aware of it, and then actually want to improve upon whatever we're learning and make something of it. I'm speaking very generally here on purpose for a moment, and that's just in general. When our heads are in the sand, or we're closed-minded and we're not open to seeing perspectives, and we don't really care, we just want to get through our day, then there's no growth. You're not really getting anywhere. But when you learn something and then you become aware of it and want to better yourself, then you've completely opened that door. And once you've opened that door and you start going in that direction, what you find is that the more the same thing keeps happening. What you seek out, you will find if you keep seeking it, right? And the concept you brought up was like attracts like. And it's very simple. We see it in examples in our lives every single day. What you think about most of the time is what will come about, right? And that's pretty much straight from Earl Nightingale's From the Strangest Secret. And so what you focus on expands. What you focus on, what your intentions are, what you're thinking about all the time is what you're going to see more of. So it's really simple. So here's the challenge. Actually, I'm going to back up for 1 second. I know I'm kind of going all over the place here, but
That's okay. No.
I have to simplify this point. Okay.
Okay.
Negative and positive live together equally. And so so I just feel like I need to make this qualification here. When I speak about negative or negative emotions or negative thoughts, it doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean that we're supposed to try to eliminate them. What it means is being aware and conscious of the fact that we are feeling emotional beings, and we have what we label the positive emotions, right? Like joy and happiness and love, and what we label the negative emotions, the fear and the hate and the anger and the sadness. The truth, though, is that they're all equal. They're just emotions. They actually aren't negative or positive. They just are. The key and the trick is to understand and realize what you want to feel more of. Do you want to live more on the labels of the positive emotions or more on the labels of the negative emotions? And because we do have power and control over them when we understand and accept them. So if you're feeling, and so here's the power of the negative side, okay, is that, so imagine being in a really foul mood, okay? You're just grumpy, you're hangry maybe, somebody said something to annoy you, you're just having a grumpy day. How hard is it to flip the switch and go into complete joy and bliss? And that's a real question. So how hard is it to go from negative to positive?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, I want you to answer that.
I feel like the majority of people out there are going to naturally just say, like, it's hard. It's hard to flip the emotions on that. But obviously, like, the logical side of me wants to say it's easy because it literally just comes down to a choice and then putting your emotions in alignment with that choice that you make.
Yes. Now okay. But in reality, when you, Whitley Jane, are in a super funk, can you just immediately flip the switch? And like, you can make the effort to do so and it'll change and you'll get yourself out of that. But does it happen with the flip of the switch?
No.
So now the opposite. If you're in a good mood, you're happy, everything's going good, having a day, and then all of a sudden something bad happens, okay? Like something that really triggers you. So whether it's something on the road with road rage or whatever, like somebody does something stupid or something happens, whatever, how quickly does it go from positive to negative in comparison?
Like, just like that.
Exactly. So the power of the negative side, okay, the power of the dark side is bad. It's tough, man. Like, it's powerful.
That's
because
crazy.
You can flip to negative super fast and be stuck there.
Right.
But it's really hard to flip from negative to positive. And again, that's just how we're wired.
That is insane. Sorry, I was just going to ask our listeners, like, how many of you guys are having like little like aha light bulb moments right now, just in terms of that perspective that Dave just shared? Because I know I am. I'm just like, yeah, I never really thought of it that way, but you're right. It's just like, it's so easy to go from positive to negative, but to go from negative to positive, it's like it's a struggle. So it's work, it's effort. Yeah. So is it because of, programming, conditioning of our entire upbringing in our lives?
I don't think it's individual. I think it's chemistry and biology. Okay. I just think it's the way it is. Gotcha. And so the point is, once you understand that and accept all of your emotions, honor all of the emotions, and understand that when you're in a negative place so again, with the labels of the negative feelings, you're in a space of you're in a big funk, right? You're just in a bad place that day, just grumpy, like nothing serious, but you're just in a bad mood. Number one, you then have to understand and accept and be aware of that. So in other words, you actually have to think consciously, like, holy crap, I'm in a bad mood. And then you have to ask yourself, where you have to think about, okay, how long do I want to stay in this mood for? Do I want to switch out of it? Or do I just want to sit here in my funk and be grumpy, right?
Right.
And when you consciously say, okay, enough. Yeah, I'm grumpy. Let's get out of this. Then you make a conscious decision to flip the switch, but it's not a flipping the switch. It's like flipping 100 switches one at a time until you get there, right?
Right.
And then you work your way out of it. So the skills that you employ to do that, you learn along the way, and you find out how to do it. But just the awareness of that and the thinking of that makes a huge difference. That's like turning on 30 of the 100 switches, right? You just boom.
Yeah.
Now you're aware of it, you're thinking about it, and you know that you can work yourself out of that mood and put yourself in an environment to succeed for that goal by not continuing to stew, by not staying around whatever it was that triggered you to put you in the bad mood in the first place, right?
Okay. I would. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
Well, I was going to say, I don't remember the original question.
Yeah, no, we're just
but where are we at?
Well, I kind of wanted to, like, I really love those little action steps that you just pointed out there, like recognizing what it is, choosing which path you want to go, down the path of flipping into positivity, or you just want to stay in that negative hunch, and then implementing it. But I really want to kind of like go with the route of relationships, because I feel like that is a huge one for people out there, is the negativity, the positivity in a relationship. So for somebody who is constantly, kind of like going back and forth with their partner and, good mood, bad mood, like what are some ways that somebody can begin to implement more positive actions and positivity within their relationship?
Oh, ready for a really profound answer?
Yes, absolutely.
You may have never heard of this concept before.
I'm ready.
It's called communication.
Ooh, communication. Y'all hear that? We need to communicate.
It's so funny. The biggest answers are always the simplest things that we already know. We already know. And the hardest things to actually implement. Right. And that's the truth too. Like, as simple and as silly as it sounds, it doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it's easy to do. It's completely simple in concept, but it's not easy at all. But communication is everything. So, it doesn't matter what the relationship is, whether it's your partner, whether it's your kids, your coworkers, your boss, your friend, your family, it doesn't matter. It's communicating, knowing your own boundaries and being okay with setting the boundaries and just saying how you feel. So let's go a little practical and give some examples. Let's see. So if I'm, it's just, okay. If I'm in a funk, I tell my wife.
Okay.
It's that simple. Like, if I feel like I'm having a moment and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to be triggered pretty easy today or right now or whatever. And I can feel the energy from my wife. Like, she's going to ask me why I'm grumpy or something. And so I just go and talk to her. I'm like, hey, listen, I am in a mood. I'm in a funk. I'm working my way out of it, but just giving you a heads up. And that's it.
Wow. It seems
and she's like,
simple.
And she's like, oh, okay.
I love
and then
that.
maybe she'll poke fun at me anyway. But with the understanding and the awareness, it becomes funny and okay, because we're acknowledging the same thing and whatever. But then she knows to give me a little bit of time and space. And if I seem snappy, she understands why. Right. And because sometimes I'll become snappy and I don't even realize it. And she's like, why are you like that? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't mean anything, but I'm just in that mood. Right. So again, it's just the awareness level. So when I let her know in advance, hey, listen, I'm in a funk. I'm trying to get out of it. Just give me time. She's like, oh, okay, no problem. And that's it. And then she's in the right mindset for me. I'm in the right mindset for her. And just acknowledging it to out loud to somebody else actually flips another 20 switches.
It's so simple, yeah. It's so powerful, and yet it's not as easy as it seems to be as well, right? And it's not as easy for everybody to do, but it is that simple, right? It's
Yeah.
just communicating. And I think also too, Dave, is having your boundaries. I think like, and honestly, for me, this year is just like I have just for the first time in my life, learning to know what my boundaries are and setting those boundaries. And I think that that is a really big key that goes along with communication as well, is knowing your partner's boundaries, knowing other people's boundaries, setting boundaries for yourself, and then implementing those boundaries. Because if you didn't have those boundaries, maybe your significant other wouldn't give you that time and that grace to have your space, because they're not going to necessarily respect your boundaries. Like for you, that would be a boundary, right?
Yep. Or even know what your boundaries are, or even know that they're doing something that is not helping you. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's just, and simple boundaries can be really simple communication, like the example I just gave. And that does immediately set boundaries, right?
Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
when you know somebody well, you don't have to physically say, okay, these are my boundaries. but you just make the comment, listen, I'm in a funk. Like,
right.
kind of leave me alone for a bit. You just set boundaries and give them a huge insight as to where you're at. And so they know what buttons not to push right now.
Right. So, and Dave, you've been on this personal development journey for 25 years now, and you've basically, you've become an expert in PMA and your coaching and everything that you do. And I know that you're just on this big mission to spreading positivity and just leveling up the vibration of positivity in the world. But can you share with us how that took place? I feel like a lot of us go through some sort of challenge in our life, or, we go through some type of experience that really we have this moment of realization, and then we go down this journey, and usually we learn a ton from it, and then we go on to help others. Was that the case for you?
Yeah. How real do you want me to get?
Like absolute real. This is a place to be, like real people, real stories.
All right, here we go. Time to get super real. So growing up, I was a class clown, and I was always having fun, and I was always the positive guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I also had some pretty good anger management issues. Okay. I remember growing up as a teenager, I got angry. When I got triggered, I had very little control over what I would do next. And so I learned how to repair drywall holes in my parents' home, because I would put holes in the wall. Now, I'm not saying I did this every day or whatever, but there's a handful of occasions where I had to repair drywall. Okay. So I needed an outlet. I needed to understand the anger that I was feeling and the triggers. And because when I got to that point of just rage, I just didn't know what to do with it. And I had this pent up, and I took it out on inanimate objects. I'd smash things. Right. So again, this wasn't daily, but over the years, this happened a handful of times. Right. So I recognized that. Now, one of the things that I did, I'm going to tell you the story quickly because it's funny, and it actually is what began my personal development journey.
Let's hear it. I love your stories.
I was eating cereal at the kitchen table, and there was papers on the table, and it was about my dad's benefit packages for work and everything that was included in the benefits and stuff like that. So I'm just scanning this as I'm eating my cereal. It just happened to be there, and I see that there's all these things that the benefits cover, like physiotherapy and this and that, and then psychology, psychiatrist. And I'm like, my mom's there in the kitchen with me, and I'm like, hey Mom, what's this? She's like, oh, those are your dad's benefits. This is what we qualify for. I'm like, this is psychiatrist. Does that mean I can go see a psychiatrist for free? And she's like, yeah, I guess. I'm like, sweet. Can I go? She's like, for what? And I don't know. I just want to go see a psychiatrist. That'd be cool. So I'm just thinking TV and movies and going in and laying on the leather couch and having that experience. I had no idea why I needed to go see a psychiatrist. Zero. Like I had no, issues that I was thinking about or anything like that. It was free. So I wanted to go. And that was it. So.
And how old were you at the time, Dave?
I don't know. It must have been like, I don't think I was 18. It was in high school anyway.
Okay.
Like, so maybe 17, something like that. And so I kept bugging her about it, and I was serious. I wanted to go see a shrink because it was free. And so we booked an appointment, and I was living in Calgary at the time, and I took the train downtown to the high rise, went up the floors, and went and sat in the psychiatrist's office. Walked in, and the guy looked at me, and I kind of looked around the office, and there was no leather couch to lay on. And I'm like, what the heck? So already my expectations were not great. Were not met. And so I sat down in the chair, and he's like, yeah, so everything okay? What's going on? What do you want to talk about? And I was like, I have no idea. He's like, okay, well, what brought you here today? I'm like, my dad's benefits. It was free. And he looked at me, tilted his head, like a dog does, like confused. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. I have no idea why I'm here. I had it in the benefits package, and I wanted to check it out. And he's like, and he laughed. I was like, okay, well, let's talk. So we talked. He asked me a few questions. Okay. It was a 1-hour session. I went in there happy as can be. Everything is great. This is cool. I'm checking out what a shrink's office is like and whatever. Half an hour later, I was a blubbering idiot, and I was crying, and I had Kleenex, and I'm like, oh my God, my life is a mess. By the end of the session, he brought me down these places where I'm like, holy crap.
Oh my God.
Seriously. But so I'm kind of exaggerating it a little bit, but that's really how it was. I walked out of that office in a completely opposite state than I walked in. But it was a good thing. I actually discovered like 2 or 3 main points in my life where there was issues, there was challenges, and there was things that I was holding in and holding back from and things like that. And so I went back the next week or whenever for the next appointment, and it got better. And I used up the whole fund in the benefits package, probably 6 visits or something. And I felt fantastic by the end, and had made some serious progression, including with my anger, and understanding a little bit of the root of it and things like that. So that was actually my first experience with personal development. It was completely by fluke and just my own curiosity. And it was awesome. So
that is quite the story. I love it. I just love how it like just all just kind of like fell into place so effortlessly. Like you weren't even expecting to go and basically experience what you had experienced, but it opened that door to where you are today, right?
Yep. So then moving along, I actually went, it's probably maybe a handful of years later, I actually went to anger management counseling, to a counselor again. So now I have this great opinion of psychiatrists, psychologists, counseling. I'm like, this is awesome. Everybody should do this stuff, man. If you have it in your benefits package, go get it, because you just think you don't need it because it's awesome. Right? So that's been my opinion of counseling ever since, right? So anyway, I was having issues with my anger still. And so I went to a counselor, had a few sessions, and he suggested group counseling. And I was really not down with that, because my perception, my judgment was I would go to this group and it'd be all these, and I'm just going to be ridiculously stereotypical here, just going to be a bunch of wife beaters and bad guys and, tattoos and rednecks and, all these stereotypes running through my head. And I'm like, I don't want to be in a group with all these and criminals, right, that have to be there because they're court mandated or whatever. And this is what I'm thinking. And but I decided to go, but it was really hesitatingly. And I walked in, and there's a whole bunch of normal dudes. And as we start talking, everybody's from different walks of life. There's rich, there's poor, there's mandated by the court, there's voluntary. Everybody's in there. And everybody was exactly the same. We all had the exact same concerns, fears, emotions. We're all dealing with the same kind of stuff. And it was beautiful. And so I went in there super, super judgmental. And within the first or second week, I was completely flipped around and ridiculously humble. And that was another huge step. So my anger issues have like, that changed everything for me. And it's still there. It's just like any other thing. It's it's how I'm built. It's who I am. But because I've worked at it, I've gone through the process of becoming better. I'm consciously aware of it, and can, even in the heat of the moment, I have like almost 100% control now, because I can be aware, I can assess, and I can change my environment or do what I need to do to not get to that point where I rage.
It's amazing. It's amazing, because I feel like there's so many people out there who do experience this, who do have anger issues, or, you know, just get into that like negative funk, and it's so hard for them to flip that. And I think just so many of us feel like we don't have as much control over our emotions as we think we do. And so I think that is such a beautiful story, and funny too, of course, because I love your stories, Dave. But I really wanted to ask you if you could share an example of a really challenging time in your life.
Which one? Okay.
I know. Which one?
So let me put it this way. So I'm a business owner. I've had 2 franchised restaurants roughly for 20 years. And there's been some really, really tough times throughout that 20 years. There's been some amazing high points, and it's been an amazing experience. And I love the company that I'm with and all that stuff. But it's business. And so you have cycles, you have issues, you have different things going on. So when I opened my second location, I did it. I was pretty cocky, because I felt like I had the world by the you-know-whats, because the first location was kicking butt, and I bought out the partners, and then I decided to open a second location. In hindsight, of course, I did it way too soon. I should have waited at least another year. And if I would have done that, I would have actually ended up waiting probably another 2 or 3, because when I actually did open, it was right before the big recession in the mid 2000s, like 2006. And I did it like I wasn't really financially prepared to open a second location. That's why I said I should have waited another year. So I kind of, what did I say? Limited my resources to their limits, and opened the second location. And then within a few months, everything started going down. And the downturn in that economy, in that recession, was terrible. So I almost opened my store and went bankrupt in like 6 to 12 months, because it was so tough to keep both locations afloat in that economy with the limited resources I had. So I had to battle back from that, and I did, and everything was fine, but it was not easy. And I ended up in a pretty big hole that took a long time to kind of work my way back out of. But all along that time, so this is the point now, because of my consistent positive mindset, I'm constantly assessing my thoughts, constantly assessing my emotions, and to the point now where it's automatic. I'm not actually doing it. It's just automatic. But back then it was very much on purpose, like struggling, like having conversations with myself. And so when I'm going to give you one specific thing, because at that point it's just pure stress and pure worry, right?
Right.
And when you get like that, if you're living in that stress and worry mode 24/7, which you are, even when you're not, it's just constantly there.
Right.
And you have to find ways to escape that and get out of that in order to properly physically function. Because if you're in stress and worry mode and you can't sleep because of it, and so now you're sleep deprived and you're in worry and stress mode, and it's just a snowball effect that keeps going and going, getting worse and worse and worse and worse until your body just shuts down physically, right?
Right.
So how do you be in that state of heightened stress and worry and yet still find a way to get to sleep and try to get some relaxation time, right? And it's really, again, really simple in concept. It's asking myself the question, what is my worrying right now in this very moment, at this minute, at 11:45 p.m.? What is me worrying about the situation and running the scenarios through the situation? How is that helping me right now? What can I do in this moment to better my situation? It's 11:45 p.m. Nothing. There's nothing I can do until morning at this point, right? So between now, 11:45 p.m. and 8 a.m. the next morning, I don't have a care in the world. I'm free. Because there's nothing I can do to better my situation for those 8.25 hours, because everybody's in bed sleeping. Nothing is open. The banks aren't open. Businesses aren't open. I can't go marketing or promoting my business. Everything is closed and people are sleeping. So what's the sense of me worrying for the next 8 hours when there's absolutely nothing I can do to change the situation? Right. The best thing I can do is take a breath and relax and be in bliss that I am free from my worries for the next 8 hours. What am I going to do for those 8 hours where I am completely free? I'm going to get some freaking sleep.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I'm going to put my head on the pillow and I'm not going to be worried. And so I'm going to take some deep breaths and I'm just going to let it go, because there's nothing I can do right now. So I can't feel guilty about going to sleep and not feeling stressed, because there's nothing I can do anyway. Right? So that trick, and it's not just for sleeping, it's any moment of any day. When you have a challenge or a problem specifically that you're working on and you're feeling the pressure of it, if you consciously think to yourself, is there anything I can do at this moment? Maybe maybe you've sent an email to somebody and there's nothing you can do now about this situation until they reply. The ball's in their court. You've done your part. Now there's nothing you can do, and you know they're not going to reply until the end of the day. You now have 6 hours of complete freedom, because there's nothing you can do to better that situation. You've done your part. Right.
So
let it go and move on.
I think that is such a really, really good point that you brought up too, Dave, is because I think that a lot of us go through life or experiences in our life which again, it could be a breakup, it could be a divorce, it could be, a financial hard time financially, family problems, whatever it is. But I feel like we get so caught up in that chaotic cyclone of worry, stress, and constantly having that take run in our minds. And we're trapped, like we're prisoner to that situation, and that's all we can seem to focus on. But it just makes the situation worse. So basically what you're saying is, ask yourself, is my worrying right now helping me in this exact moment? What is it that I could do that could possibly help this situation? And have I done it? And if so, I can release myself from this.
100%. So that's my why worry tip.
Love it. So, okay, anybody who may be needing a little more positivity in their lives today or every day, needing to kind of reshape their mind frame from going from negative to more positive, what can you leave with our listeners today? What would be that one big action step that you would leave for them today?
Action step. How about we make it a 24-hour challenge?
All right, let's do it.
So I will give everybody a 24-hour challenge to pay attention to your emotions. So every time that you feel something that you would label as negative, so whether it's jealousy, fear, stress, worry, anger, any of those things, resentment, check yourself, okay? Be consciously aware of your negative emotion and see if you can't find a happy place. So thinking of someone you love, thinking of some place that you're happy in, purposefully going to YouTube or Facebook or Instagram and searching baby goat videos and kittens, okay, for a moment to put yourself in a happy place, doing something concrete to flip some of those switches to get back to the positive place. So being aware of the negative emotions and consciously thinking about it and doing something to flip the script.
Love it.
That's the 24-hour challenge.
I love that. So awareness, consciously choosing, and then finding that place, that go-to place, resource that can put you in that happy place. Love it. So, Dave, I always like to do this kind of like recap on my episodes because obviously it's a conversation. It's a conversation for the listeners, but also for me. But I'd like to just kind of recap on how I've been able to hear everything. So basically,
awesome.
if you're somebody who, is looking at changing your circumstance, getting out of that rut, that just kind of putting more positivity in your life. And I know that positivity is that word that's kind of thrown out there so much these days, but it can have, as we're ready to say, have a positive perspective on it. But basically, it's give yourself that grace and give yourself that understanding that both emotions, positive and negative, are both equal, and that we're human and it is normal to feel both of them. However, you do have the power to choose which one you want to live in and have throughout your daily life. And it really comes down to having that awareness, recognizing what emotions you're feeling at the time, recognizing what triggers you, and then also choosing how you want to respond to that. And then lastly is responding to that. And so I think that the biggest thing that really stood out for me as well is just that self-awareness. So practicing every single day, being self-aware of your thoughts, your emotions, and knowing that you really do have the power to how you want to live, positively or negatively, which most of us, we want to live a positive, happy, joyful life, but it isn't always easy. However, when you start to have more of a grasp on your own perspective and your own perception of the world, it does become easier. And lastly, I love the 24-hour challenge. Pay attention to your emotions and also consciously deciding on how you want to act with that, and then finding your happy place. So going to a source of inspiration or motivation like YouTube or maybe Instagram pictures or something that does bring in that bit of joy for you. So again, thank you so much, Dave. Is there anything that you wanted to add in to close out our episode for today?
I gotta say, I've been sitting here with a big grin on my face the whole time you were rehashing our conversation, because you talked at the very beginning about me being able to break things down simply and making it make sense. And wow, you just nailed it. So great job. That was beautiful. That was an amazing recap. And other than that, I want to thank you. You are now one of the positive influences and inspirations in my life. And I thank you for being in my life and for inviting me to do this podcast. And for all of your listeners, keep listening. Keep listening to Whitley Jane, because she's got it.
Oh, thanks, Dave. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Before we close out here too, I just want to make sure that all of our listeners know exactly where they can find you. So could you tell us where people can find you, Dave?
Facebook for sure. That's the platform I use the most. So Dave Doyle, PMA Professor is my page. My website is pmaprofessor.com. And Instagram, Dave Doyle, PMA Pro is my handle.
Awesome. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. I hope you guys got some awesome value and some good tips. I know I did. And until next week, we will see you then. Bye for now.